Welcome to another edition of In the Minute. Now, I'm in the kitchen now because we're going to be cooking with hot grease on this one, Donna. When you start thinking about this Washington team, the opportunity they have and the people that are they're about to play the first couple of games, it looks pretty good for them as far as I'm concerned. Tell me a little bit about this Arizona team.
Oh, listen, you talk about in the kitchen cooking. Somebody need to cook you because
cooking with hot grease. Wait a minute, don't leave the hot grease off. We're cooking with hot grease today.
Yeah, but Tony, before we get into the meat of what we're going to talk about as far as the Washington Commanders starting off the season, the first regular season game, hey, Tony, they've got a sellout crowd, Commanders fans, for the first time in a long time. Wow.
Did you ever think you would be saying that, Donna? Listen to what you're saying. It used to be this mainstay that every week, you knew those stadiums would be full. Now we are amazed that they have a sellout crowd.
And Tony, they're home fans. But Tony, before we get into the meat of Arizona facing them, and everybody's talking about, this Arizona team ain't nobody to be worried about, but everybody should be worried about everybody. Well, let's hear from Eric Bieniemy. He talks about, the start of this season. He talks about Sam Howell, and he talks about this offensive line. Two areas that are concerned by everybody going into this season, but he's got hope, and he's optimistic that this team is where they need to be heading into the first game.
Our jobs as coaches is to make sure that we're giving our guys the best opportunity to win. And so we want to make sure we put them in the right situations. On top of that, providing them all the necessary information so they can go out and play at their best. So if we're doing it the right way, you should go into each and every game thinking, hey, we're going into this to win. So regardless of what the score is, the only thing that we're going to do, and you guys going to hear me say this, as long as we're together, our job is to find a way to drag our ass collectively across the finish line together. Because what you see is what you get. You get a good-hearted individual who has a tremendous amount of talent, okay? Who has a quiet, calm, confident demeanor, all right? But also he's very aware of who he is and where he fits, within the grand scheme of things. But he has a great personality that just attracts people. And so I'm enjoying working with him. And I just want to see, and I can already see it right now, how he's going to handle, the highs and lows of the season. Because as we all know, there's no such thing as perfection. We want to chase it as much as we can. And the thing that I'll say this until whenever, the thing that I always have to remind myself of each and every day when I go home, you know what? If Sam made a mistake doing something, this is probably the first time that it's happened in his career. So I have to remind myself of that. And then that way we can present it and making sure that he's doing whatever he can to make whatever situation better for him moving forward. I like where our offensive line is right now. I think those guys have developed a great chemistry. Those guys do a great job of over-communicating with one another. On top of that, they're a close-knit group. People are always going to have opinions, okay? I'll just compare what we had when I was in Kansas City a few years ago. We went to a Super Bowl with an offensive line that a lot of people didn't give credit to, okay? And that was okay. Those guys just found a way to drag their ass across the finish line and finish with a ring. And so these guys are very, very competitive, all right? They can care less about what others think. The only thing that matters is what we think and what we believe moving forward. We got a unique, talented group. I love the personality. I love the character of us. We work very hard. One thing I will say, it's not going to always be perfect, but the thing that I appreciate about these guys is that they work hard together. They want to be the very best that they can be. And when people ask that our O-line will fall short, I said, sure, why don't you come up here and see if you can get in the three-point stance and beat them in the game of one-on-one.
No, I like that. And Donna, since we're in the kitchen, it's just like anything else. He put the three things together. Now, whenever you talk about red beans, you always talk about the rice. He's talking about togetherness. He's saying this team, what do you do to do it together? I like that. He knew that his quarterback, young as he may be, he may make some mistakes, but he want to make it with the team body around him, and they making it together. They improving together. And last but not least, I like the way he talks because all about getting it done. This is the kind of vernacular that's been needed around here for a long time, and I am glad to see him bringing it.
Hey, Tony, he said a whole bunch. I mean, everybody is looking at Sam Howell, the starting quarterback for this year, new quarterback under the center. But this guy has grown, and I think what he said mostly is that he's going to make some mistakes, but this guy is ready to go. And then, the offensive line, started with this. Let me just say this about the offensive line. It's been one of the areas that I've been concerned with. But talking to Sam Cosme, he said that they said, what are your identity? We asked him this week, what was the offensive line's identity? It was the Hogs back then in your time. He said, we want to be known as dogs. Now, Tony, when you said be known as dogs, most of the time, that's the defensive side of the ball is talking about being looked at as dogs. He said, not only that, he said, we're not going to back down from nobody. Nobody is going to push us around. That's Sam Cosme, offensive lineman. So when I heard that kind of talk, Tony, despite what I may think about the offensive line, after hearing Eric Bieniemy and after hearing Sam Cosme say that, I mean, I had a new outlook on that. When have the last time over the years you heard offensive linemen talk like that?
They may have called them dogs, but not for that right reason. The other thing about it is we want them to be dogs.
A nasty, mean offensive line is what you want to hear.
Exactly. And, he even mentioned that during his dissertation when he said the three facets, and they know the offensive line is going to be real important. I like the story he mentioned where a few years ago in Kansas City, they didn't think their offensive line was efficient, not them, but the press and everybody else. They went on to win a Super Bowl. This is what the Washington franchise needs right now. They need a coordinator that's coming in. And the one thing he said, whatever way you do it, just win. Last time we heard that was out in the Raiders, just win, baby. And that's all we looking for.
Look, that was music to Tony. That was music to my ear and everything. And I like this. I know that Venus Williams, if anybody doesn't know who she is, a tennis player with the Serena sisters, and she said when people criticize her, she said, I don't see nobody can come on this court and beat me. And Eric Bieniemy ended his statement saying, I don't see anyone go up one-on-one with these linemen. So you got to be careful about what you say. But Tony, I wanted to read something that Magic Johnson was in town this week, and they met with the team this week. And this is a statement that he said, and this is kind of like sweet music to my ear too, because he wants the team to focus on the team, the players, and not have to answer questions from like you, Tony. But he said that Magic Johnson talked to the players. He said, you don't have to worry about the problems from this ownership group. You ain't going to read no headlines, no questions from you guys about stuff on the field. Your job, he said, is to concentrate on doing your job and having fun. That was the message that Magic Johnson delivered to the players in a meeting this week. What's your thoughts, Tony? We haven't heard,
that fits right with it. And what you have to realize, we've been watching Magic. He's from Lansing, Michigan. I'm from Battle Creek, Michigan, ever since he was a child. Matter of fact, one of my cousins, his name is Richard McGee. He and Magic and another guy named Barnes were the three best players and guards in Michigan during the time he was in high school. Wherever you've seen Magic, you've seen the propensity for that team to win. He has a winning attitude. Look what he's doing right now. Los Angeles Dodgers. Look what he's done there. He's looking at what he's doing, what he did with the basketball. Now here we have that attitude back in here that we can win this thing. Other years we have gone into, and when we go in and we talk about the Washington season, We talk about what can they do this? Can they improve here? Can they do this? Now we are actually talking about the Super Bowl already. Now we're not getting ahead of ourselves, but you have
You
an
better not be
opportunity.
talking about no Super Bowl, Tony.
Wait a minute. I called it last year, and you and Alex and all, nobody wanted to believe it. But I'm telling you, I see some teams right now, and I'm going to call out one team. Since we jumping off the subject, I'm going to tell you a team that I think they have to watch this year. Everybody.
Here we go.
Cleveland. I'm coming up with Cleveland, the first one I'm talking about. Cleveland
You're
will be
the
a
second person
dangerous
that
team.
said that, Tony.
I'm telling you, they will be dangerous this year. And then as you
Are
look
you
around
talking
the
about
league,
because Watson is back for a whole season?
No, I'm talking about the overall team. And I like Watson only as a piece of that. And that's just like it was when we were the Washington Redskins, and we had the Hogs, and we had the fun bunch, and we had this. Everybody has their piece. He brings the piece of a quarterback that has played in big games before. But the thing that's going to make them what they are is their running game and their defense. And both of those are excellent.
Listen,
Now, you want to talk a little stuff? You in the kitchen now. Did you burn your food? Or you're not saying
No,
too
you
much?
must be burning your food because it must be pure back.
I'm putting together pheasant on the glass.
Hey, Tony, before we hop around the league a little bit, let's go back to the Commanders. The game against the Arizona Cardinals this coming weekend. Two teams headed in opposite directions. Everybody's not even the Cardinals a chance, but that's a dangerous team because if you go in thinking just because they got a lot of hiccups right now, Kyle Murray is, you know, that he's not back. He's still nursing that injury as far as from last year, the quarterback, and they just named Josh Dobbs to start quarterback late this week, Tony. And then they've got a new coach this year as far as Jonathan Ganton. So when you look at the Cardinals and everything, Hopkins is gone. Give me your observation of this team headed into the first game against the Commanders.
I think it's an excellent game for the Commanders. I think they have an excellent opportunity to win. This team is trying to rebuild. Their leader is still hurt in Murray. They lost big defensive linemen. They've lost a lot of everything. And Hopkins was a game breaker at that time. And now you look at them, they're trying to find themselves. But at the same time, you cannot relax. You cannot feel this is just a step over game because whenever you step on the field in the NFL, you better be ready. If this team is ready, they could get a victory in the first two games easily. I'm talking about the second game because that's Denver. Another team is trying to find themselves. One thing we can say about this Washington team, they know who they are. They just have to do it.
Yeah, you're talking about doing it, and as Eric Bieniemy said, they need to just worry about themselves. But, you know, Terry McLaurin, question mark still as far as if he should go. I was out at practice this week. He was testing out the toe, testing out the waters. You know, you know what toe is, Tony. But being that you want him from really the meat, and he said that he would play, and Eric Bieniemy, if he could, really want to play. But Eric Bieniemy said that, you know, they will miss Terry McLaurin, but he doesn't want to throw him out there. But Terry will be there one way or the other as far as, you know, rallying the team and all of those things, even if he does not play. And Eric Bieniemy said that when this is all said and done after Terry's career, he really should be a coach because he's a smart guy. You know, he knows the game and all, and he will be an excellent coach. But going back to Terry, I personally think that he should not play because when you look at the receivers they got, they can afford for Terry not to play this game because you want him down the stretch, you know, as you move forward. You don't want this to become a problem where if it's not 100%, you don't want to move forward. Like I said, they're loaded at wide receivers. Eric Bieniemy is using running backs out of the backfield. And also, Logan Thomas is supposed to play. What's your thoughts on Terry? She maybe not play this game or what?
I would not play him this game because when you have a toe injury such as his, and it's on a weight-bearing joint, and he runs, he can just run real hard and make a cut and injure that toe. Fred Lynn, a great baseball player back in the 70s, back in Boston, one of the best that ever played. he stubbed his toe and he was never the same. What happened with Deion? When Deion was here, one of the first things that happened to him, he messed that toe up. People go and try to play with those toes, but they are chronic injuries. I can tell you, I hurt my toes a lot when I played, and they still hurt now. So if it were I would not play him this week. You want Terry out there, but you do have a plethora of nice receivers. You can get by without him. You want a well Terry out there because he's a game changer. You don't want one out there trying to limp and make it work, and then it's hurting worse the next week, and then the next week is hurting worse, and he's never getting an opportunity during the season to be who he is. So, yes, I will keep him out this game, and the second one is need be, because I want him well.
Tony, you talking about you had toe injuries and they still hurt. That's because you just had jacked up feet. Just tell us that you had jacked up feet. No, that's because
I was running 4.5. You don't know nothing about that. You don't know anything about that. I was running them 4.5s and pounding that turf.
Hey, Tony, you was tripping over your own feet and you was running a 4.5 and all that.
But I tripped over 100 times to the quarterback, okay?
I see you with the black high tops on that everybody likes. But Tony, let's go to shift to the defensive side of the ball, your favorite side of the ball. Chase Young this week said that, look, he's going to play. You know, he had that severe pinched nerve in his shoulder from the first preseason game, but he said that he is ready to rock and roll. Your thoughts on Chase Young? And I think that he was, well, you know what? I'm going to leave it at that. He said that he's ready to play.
It's time. He realized that he had a pretty good rookie year. Then he got hurt, and now he's been in and out, and he got a little time in last year. This is the year that he must prove that he is still that player that they drafted a few years ago. He needs to play right now, not just for the team to see, for himself. When you have an injury, you have a tendency to kind of favor it, even if you do not want to, and you always thinking about it and stuff. So he needs to get back out there, get hit, get to rolling again, and forget about that injury. And right now is the time. We're going to find out where he is, where his head is, what he needs to do right now, and what can he rebring. And I said rebring because he brought a lot to the team in the beginning, but he got to bring that again. That's just another facet of this team growing and becoming a strong team. We know they got a strong defensive line. Now, that may make it not Chase, but that may make it where they can move some other defensive linemen and bring in some offensive linemen, because they got 6 to 7 very good defensive linemen. Many teams do not have that. And that one thing I always say, we had that in New England for a few years. And on those 2 out of those 3 years, we led the league in sacks, like I told you last week. That's what they have opportunity to do here. But even as good as that front four is, they got to have that middle defense and those linebackers, and they got to have coverage people back there. And I tell you what, the defense has to be coordinated. He's a big part of it. It's time for him to play.
It's time for him to play. And you know what, Tony? I think that he's feeling that excitement that he wants to be on the field and be with those guys, because when you hear the speeches from the Magic Johnson, this ownership, the way that they're rallying around the team, and you're on the sideline, you want to be a part of that, team on the field making things happen. So I think that he's excited about all of those pieces that I really want to get back on the field. But Tony, let's jump to that Detroit and Kansas City Thursday night game. What's your thoughts? Because everybody was talking about they look at Kansas City being back, competing for that Super Bowl again, and we know that Kelsey Travis was out with that knee injury that was suffered earlier in practice. And you know what? Are they missing an Eric Bieniemy a little bit in Kansas City in this first game? Because Detroit showed off on them and got the game 21-20. Your thoughts?
Well, let's digress and go back to this Detroit team. If you look at them over the last couple of years, the only thing they have been lacking is consistent defense. But their offense has gotten better each and every year, so I'm not surprised at that. But you also look at this is the way the league is going to be this year. It's not going to be a lot of runaways like it was last year. I think every team has improved to some points, and others that do not need to improve have stayed the same. So this is going to be a very competitive competitive year. And what you got Detroit, you have a team that know how to score. Now they're learning how to play defense. And when you can come and beat the Super Bowl champions, even if, and they say, okay, this person was out, this person was out. Excuse me. I think you hit it right on the head. The enemy is here. That's why they were there. And that's why it was 21-20. And that's why it's going to be that way. Not just there. It's going to go out throughout the league. You will see some difference. That's why Washington can't relax when they get ready to play Denver, because that Denver team will be different this year. They have the different, they still have the same quarterback, but they have a
new head coach.
Exactly. So that's what's happening around the league. And look at all our, Donna, we've been doing this for 38 years. You haven't, but I have. And
we're doing 39, Tony. This is 39.
Right, we're in the 39. But you think about it. What we're looking at is the teams that have been great over all those years now are the bottom teams now. The new teams have brought in people. Quarterbacks are playing their first year, where when I came in, you had to sit on the bench 2 or 3 years. They bringing in people that can make game changers. They got linebackers playing safety. I mean, everything is changing. But if you look at this game, I think this year will be a very competitive year. And I guarantee you one thing, the teams that were in the Super Bowl last year are not guaranteed to be back this year.
Hey, everybody, you know what? Don't listen to Tony. You know, this is In the Minute. You know, Tony does over minutes and minutes. But make sure that you listen to In the Minute on whatever podcast platform that you got. You can also listen to it on YouTube, In the Minute. Make sure to like and subscribe and tell all your friends to come on in. And no, don't listen to Tony, because he's halfway wrong. But Tony, we're going to talk next week about the NFC East, you know, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Giants after the first preseason, after the first regular season game, to break down that come next week. But Tony, In the Minute, you got the last word, and make sure it's a minute.
Well, you know what? That's why we named it In the Minute, because we didn't want to give Donna a lot of time to make mistakes. So when we come back next week, we'll have some more information for you. And as we say on the television show, we never say goodbye. We say In the Minute.
In the Minute.
For your first NFL game and everything, what would be the emotions? It's a sellout crowd for the first time, but what will be your emotions as you step on the field for the first time for a regular season game?
I'm be excited, of course. I'm gonna try to hold it all in and just take it all in, honestly, because I'm blessed to be here anyway. So I'm just gonna go out there and just try to have fun, and hopefully we'll get the win and make anything better.
How much will the excitement be that day, as far as, you know, Eric Bieniemy said in his press conference just now that he has to, you know, he's going to be bubbling too. He's going to be excited, but he has to keep it at a level so he doesn't spill over, to keep everybody calm.
Yeah.
Will that be something that you're going to be?
It's definitely something I'm gonna have to do, because I know if I get too pumped up, I may forget something. I'm gonna forget something, so I'm just gonna try to stay as easy as I can and just go out there and have fun.
First NFL game, what will be the emotions as you take that field for the first regular season game?
It'll definitely be surreal, and like I said, just knowing that, you know, this is what I worked for my whole life, really, my whole career, and just to see things just, you know, happen in action. So just being out there in that field, man, it mean everything to me.
As a kid, when you know, looked at the NFL and being an NFL player, did you foresee this really happening?
You know, it was trials and tribulations through the career, man, but, you know, it's always been a goal of mine, and just always kept that in the back of my head, just knowing where I wanted to get and be as a player. So I always knew, believed in myself, man, and, you know, just worked my butt off for this opportunity.